Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on wherever it is you're tuning in from. I'll give everyone about a minute here to trickle in, and then we will get chatting about burnout and some things to be careful of, some things to watch out for, and some ways to remedy, and how you can get some tools and resources as well for helping navigate burnout. Okay. Hope everyone's been having a great Thursday so far, or at least smooth. It is very sunny here in Calgary, Canada, which I'm very happy about. We've had a couple of gloomy days, so I'm taking the sun. I'm enjoying it, enjoying the sun. All right. Okay. All right, let's get rolling. Let's get chatting about burnout. It's one of those things that isn't fun, it's not a fun thing. But honestly, it's one of the things that I love. I love talking about and sharing about because it was so not fun for me. It was very painful. I don't wish it on anybody, and I'm just happy to be able to share about it so that I can help prevent you from it. You can see some of the telltale signs, and kind of curb around it. Or if you are going through burnout, to hopefully get a few new resources that can help you. So that's really my intention here to share. So if you're here live in the comments, just let me know that you're here, where you're joining in from. I'd love to hear from whoever is with us today just now. And just throughout our session, throughout our time here today, if you have any questions, any comments that come up, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I will take some time at the end, or maybe even throughout, to address some of these questions as well. So please feel free to drop any questions in the chat. And yeah, let's talk burnout. So we're going to talk about 5 reasons for burnout. Some of these reasons that no one even really talks about. No one really talks about these things. We hear a lot of the same kind of pieces out there and factors for burnout. And some of these that I'm going to talk about today have all been based on a true story, which has been my journey, or journeys, I should say, through burnout. I have been through burnout twice. So I'm going to spill the beans and share some of the juice. And these are double-sided. So these are for individuals, like for yourself as employees, if you are, and also for employers, like for organizations, to pay attention to and really see, maybe from a different perspective, how what they're doing can impact employees in the workforce. Because some organizations don't actually realize the impact of what they're doing. Some of them have just been doing things the way that they've been done and don't know any different. Others know different and don't know how to change it, and other organizations know different, know how to change it, and just need help to be able to do that. So the first cause of burnout, that is kind of one of those secret ones that nobody talks about, is having a micromanager. Having a micromanager is really, really difficult for employees' mental health, their physical health, emotional health. It really takes a toll on our entire nervous system. Essentially, when we have a micromanager, they're watching our every move. They're following us in terms of where we are, what we're doing, kind of at any given moment. And this really showed up for me when, in one of my organizations, I would go around and deliver birthday cards. So there were hand-signed birthday cards by some of the managers, and I would go around to people's desks and deliver these birthday cards as part of my role. And I would come back to my desk with missed phone calls asking where I was, why I wasn't at my desk. And my manager knew that I was delivering birthday cards, or so I thought, because that was what I was told to do. And it was, as if I was taking too long, or some, there was always like an issue there essentially, and a challenge here, where I would go to the bathroom and come back and be questioned on where I was. So these are some ways that a micromanager can show up, and it really puts our nervous system in that fight or flight mode. We're kind of always on edge. And the underlying issue here that's really important for employers and organizations to know from this is that the underlying issue here is trust, right? Micromanagers are micromanaging because they need to maintain control. They feel a sense of needing to maintain control for many reasons. And that's not something we won't unpack all those reasons here right now, but there's an issue here with trust that can be worked on so that micromanagers can transition out of being a micromanager and being a more trusting manager, so they don't feel that urge and that need to be on their employees' case all the time. So if you have a micromanager, watch out for this. Notice how it makes you feel, and how this is impacting your system and your nervous system, because a lot of these challenges can bleed into other areas, which is the second piece around the second kind of hidden cause of burnout is bad sleep. So when our system is always on edge, our nervous system is always on edge, ready to go into fight or flight, we can't fully shut off. And so if we have a micromanager, this can bleed into us having bad sleep. Or for many other reasons, you might have challenges with sleep. So this could either be that you're having trouble falling asleep, so perhaps your mind is racing, or when you are sleeping, you wake up with this sense of not being fully refreshed, like you didn't actually get to shut off. You're kind of in that in that middle zone of like not being fully awake, but not being fully asleep either. And for me, it showed up in a way where I was kind of always worried that I would miss something. So my mind and body were always just ever so slightly on and ever so slightly awake. So I would wake up in the morning, not rested. I was not rested. I didn't feel good. I felt like I could tell like I didn't get any sleep. My brain wasn't clear. And an interesting fact about sleep is that chronic sleep deprivation can actually lead to death. It's very rare, but it can, like, very chronic state of this can be very, very impactful, as obviously as it is. Um, and when we don't have good sleep, we are very emotionally irritable. We become delusional. We can become very anxious. For myself, I notice that when I don't sleep well regularly, that I am quite irritable and quite moody during the day. So I have to just check myself a little bit more. I have to use more awareness around how I'm feeling as I'm interacting with people, having meetings, colleagues, things like that. Just so I can kind of watch myself. And I also notice during those times, I'm usually reaching for more sugar. You might be reaching for more coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker myself, but I'm looking for other sources of energy. And before I reach for those now, I've had this sense of awareness where I'm like, okay, I could eat that chocolate bar, or I can maybe have something else, have some water, and just try and get to bed earlier. Like I know that I'm reaching for the chocolate bar because I'm actually tired, right? So when we are not sleeping well, it is its own vicious cycle and can actually drive us into burnout. So it's something that you want to be aware of if you are not getting good sleep. This is one of those areas that you can zone in on and unpack a little bit more to help yourself get better sleep. The third piece is um, misalignment of workplace values. So this can show up in so many ways that we might ignore or not realize. Um, I see some comments in the chat here. Hi, Andrea. Hey, Nadia. Thanks for joining in. Oh, Edmonton, local Calgary. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, so the third piece, misalignment of workplace values. So this can show up in so many different ways. So, for example, in in one of my organizations that I was working with when I was working in HR, we were really big on employee appreciation, making sure employees felt really valued. Um, and we were supposed to be writing down and documenting our overtime. We're supposed to be banking our overtime. So you can either get paid out for it or you can take it off later. However, because I was in HR, somehow because I was in HR, I was not part of that policy, um, according to my manager specifically. Though company wide, that was a company wide policy. So it felt like this double standard and this kind of double edged, yeah, this double standard that I'm here to make sure our employees are feeling valued, making sure I'm reminding them to document their overtime, but yet I wasn't getting that in return. So it felt kind of fake, right? And this can also show up in other ways within organizations where, they claim that we really value people, yet employees are being underpaid under market value, right? Or employers that say we really care about people and to be patient with certain policies getting put into place. And for sure, there's a timeline for everything and like, a reasonable amount of time. Um, but maybe they're kind of busy hiring external candidates, right, versus nurturing the employees that they already have. So these are just some examples to be aware of when you are at the workplace, to see how some of these values that organizations are claiming may not be putting into action. And for some people it doesn't really matter, but for many of us it has a very strong impact on how we move within that organization. We might feel uncared for, and then we stop caring too, right? Many employees become disengaged at this point because treatment is not fair. Employees feel like we're just not good enough, right? So this is something to really watch out for if there's several of these workplace values that are being claimed and not acted on. Just notice how that's impacting you personally. The fourth piece here is unclear communications and unclear job expectations. So, unclear job expectations are one of the biggest problems that I hear about in organizations. And oftentimes it is at the leadership level. So, kind of head honcho of the organization isn't communicating clearly or articulating what the priorities are to leaders. And so, leaders are missing the mark and unclear on what they need to move forward and what they are supposed to be prioritizing. So leaders are not aligned, they're not on the same page. And then naturally, this trickles to employees as well, right? So employees feel lost. A lot of the times, you will feel like you don't have a sense of direction. Like one day you're going this way, and the next day you're going this way. And there's an element of being able to pivot and change and be agile as an employee. And then there's a sense where when we're constantly turning left and right and not sure which direction we're going, it gets really exhausting, to a place where it really messes with your sense of motivation and purpose, right? So on the surface, it can look like, oh, yeah, my job's not really clear right now, and it's I'm not also not saying that we need to have like every bullet point listed and you don't go outside of your job expectations sometimes, or just be flexible, right? To some extent, but when that's being taken advantage of and you're constantly kind of running in different directions, on a deeper layer, what's happening is it's messing with your level of motivation and purpose, which is a really big driver for many people, for many employees. Most employees enjoy, we want to be enjoying what we're doing, right? Like you want to enjoy your work and you want to enjoy where you're at, have a sense of purpose and direction with what you're doing because you spend so much time at work. It doesn't have to define you, but there is that kind of driver that keeps you moving. And this is something to just be clear about, and understand how this might be showing up for you and how it makes you feel and how that is impacting other areas of your life. Are you not able to sleep at night because you're unsure about what you're going to be doing tomorrow, or you're kind of on edge about what tomorrow is going to look like? right? That's when it's a really important time to start to notice how these seemingly small, um, kind of like seeds of burnout, I'll call them, can grow into something much bigger and much beyond our capacity, because we missed it when it was small, or we didn't really pay attention to it when it was small and when it was growing. We end up feeling kind of useless, right? It's like, well, if I don't have clear job expectations or I'm not getting clear communication, why should I even try? Why should I even try communicating? Right? It's like nobody else in the organization cares, anyways. So why should I continue? So this is also important for employers to recognize, um, that it can show up as, disengaged employees. And it may not be that the person isn't good at their role or doesn't want to be there or want to be good at their role. It can really stem from having unclear communication. The fifth piece is working in a chaotic or high pressure environment, or kind of the flip side, doing work that's really monotonous and unchallenging. So I know many job postings have that line there that is, thrives in a high pressure environment, can move in a fast paced environment, um, and we want to have some urgency, some movement and drive to the work that we're doing. However, when it's consistently chaotic or consistently high pressure, what's happening is that our nervous system is going into that sympathetic nervous system. We're going into the fight or flight part of our system, which is activated because we think there's a threat. So it's trying to keep us safe. And we're in our workplace landscape now is that we're feeling that emails are a threat, right? Just receiving an email can send us into fight or flight. And when we're kind of always on edge because we're in a very chaotic, high pressure environment, that can take a toll on our system. Again, maybe you're having trouble sleeping, maybe you're not eating well, right? Like that one specific seed, can impact so many other things in your life. Maybe you're more irritable at home with your family, or with friends if you're meeting with friends. Like you just have we can develop some awareness around how working in a high pressure environment, um, becomes habitual, and then you carry that in other places of your life. And the flip side of that is doing work that's monotonous and unchallenging, right? So an example, from my past is that I was doing a lot of redundant work, and this organization specifically said they want to be efficient and effective with their time. But yet at the same time, my manager had said, this is the way we've been doing this for the last 10 years, and this is the way we're going to continue doing them. Now, I remember when I heard that line, the way it made me feel, um, my heart sank. And that's something I will never forget. And I realized that how am I supposed to come up with new efficient ways to do something? How am I supposed to use my brain and feel a little bit challenged or engaged in the work I'm doing if I'm just doing things the way it's always been done? Because the specific task that I was talking to my manager about was a redundant task. It was something that was being duplicated elsewhere. I was trying to see how we could streamline that and make things more operationally smooth. Um, so just be cautious of how this might be showing up in your workplace. If it is, do you feel like your brain is turning, right? Are you engaged in the work that you're doing, and kind of using that mental muscle? I remember for me when that came up for me, I just thought, well, I'm just going to dull my sparkle here. I'm not going to be able to think of anything new or innovative to actually help the organization, which is what they want to do or what they claim they want to do. So those are the five things to be aware of, the five kind of hidden causes of burnout that people don't talk about, and we don't see these little seeds as growing, and being able to really have a challenging effect on our health and can drive us into burnout. Now, these are five that can be linked, right? Even we talked about the workplace values and sleep. All these different things connect with each other, and there are several other reasons that we burn out too. So this is just my invitation to you, my flag to you to become aware if some of these things are coming up for you, how you are in your workplace, how your life is feeling as you're moving through your day. Because if all five of these things are happening, that's like double flag. It's double flag in the air for you to really sit back and take a moment, and consider what is actually happening. Because when each of these combine and compile, um, the word I'm looking for is compound. When they compound on each other, it can be a recipe for disaster. So there's another piece I really want to talk about here, which is the types of people who are prone to burnout. There are certain kind of personality characteristics, that can make us more prone to burnout. So before I go into that, just going to pause here for a quick second, see if there are any questions that are coming up from the group, any comments so far on the 5 causes that I've shared. If there are, please drop them into the chat. Happy to address those as we're moving on. Okay. So some of the types of people who are more prone to burnout. Okay, this is just to give you a little bit more self-awareness, and see if you identify with some of these. So the first is people who have perfectionist tendencies. Okay, so nothing is ever good enough. If you have a really pessimistic view of yourself and the world, like the world is out to get you, right? You are more prone to burnout. If you have a high need to be in control, if you feel like you need to be in control, you have trouble delegating to other people, burnout is something to watch out for yourself. And the last one that I'll touch on here is a type A personality. Type A personality means that we also have this need to be in control. We're very structured. We like things to be very clear and articulate, and don't like to move from the plan, right? So um, these are things to just watch out for. So if you do have a type A personality, not saying you're going to hit burnout, it's just something that you have a bit more of you're more prone to get there. So just another piece for you to be aware of. So a couple of ways, let's talk about a few ways that you can start to deal with burnout. And one of the ways is to take this 3R approach. Okay, so there's recognize. So recognize, watch the warning signs for burnout. This is a whole other thing that we can take time to unpack. I'll just run through a few of them here quickly. There are physical symptoms. So if you're extremely tired, always exhausted, feeling really drained, maybe you've put on a good chunk of weight, kind of unexplainably, you're in a lot of pain a lot of the time, there's a lot of physical pain, and the list goes on. The other piece is emotional symptoms. So this sense of failure, the sense of self-doubt, helplessness, like if you feel really helpless and kind of trapped and defeated. And then there's behavioral symptoms too. So withdrawing from your responsibilities, like you kind of ditch some of your responsibilities. Coping mechanisms, right? Paying attention to how coping mechanisms show up for you. Really common ones, alcohol, right? Maybe a bunch of excessive Netflix binging, right? How are you coping? Maybe skipping work. Procrastination is another one, another behavioral symptom. So these are a couple of the things to look out for. That's under recognize, right? The first R, how you can recognize burnout. The second is to reverse burnout, right? How you can undo the damage. And there are several different ways that you can undo damage. It is a multi-layered approach. You need to seek some support and also manage the stress. And a really great way to do that is to come back to basics. This is what I say all the time, is coming back to basics. What kind of food are you putting into your body? How are you sleeping? Right? Are you taking rest throughout the day? Are you moving your body? Right? Taking some supplements can be helpful. I had worked with a naturopath when I was reversing my burnout, and it was really, really impactful, super helpful for me. Mindfulness was also incredibly helpful for me during this stage. Being mindful, living in the present moment, learning how to do that. I hadn't learned to do that before. I learned during my burnout, and it was incredibly helpful and something that still helps me today. And then the third R is resilience. You need to build your resilience to stress by taking care of your physical and emotional health and preventing this from happening in the future. So emotional intelligence has been so clutch for me for this. Emotional intelligence around learning about my emotions, how it's showing up for me and what's kind of happening in my world, and then how I'm expressing that to other people. Because emotional intelligence is about your own emotions first and foremost, before it's about somebody else's emotions. And then regular exercise can be really helpful for resilience, getting good sleep, right? Maintenance of general health, what food you're putting into your body. So these are the three R's. There's recognize, reverse, and then resilience. Okay. Hi, Yasmin. Thanks for joining in. Chicago, love it. Okay, so those are the three R's for dealing with burnout. There's recognize, reverse, and resilience. So, maybe you are burnt out. Maybe you're not sure if you're burnt out. Uh, I suggest that you sign up for my newsletter. I share more about burnout, more burnout information, emotional intelligence tips, leadership insights. So if you're interested, sign up for my newsletter to get some more resources and tools. Shoot me a DM right now with the word newsletter and your email address, and I'll make sure I get you signed up. Okay. Because there are many other ways that burnout can show up in our life. And it's important that we can become aware of those things, right? And then we can also start to navigate through it. So we can go through that reverse part, right? We can reverse the burnout and then build resilience around it, right? So I'm able to share some tools and resources around all these pieces here. So if that's something you're interested in, please shoot me a DM, the word newsletter and your email address, and I'll hook you up. Other than that, if you just want to stay tuned for more emotional intelligence tools, as I mentioned, it was super helpful for me for navigating through burnout and building my resilience. And that's the main bulk of what I share through my work, and how I can help you as well. So, curious, any questions from the group, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions that might be coming up. A lot of this that we talked about today has been based on several different questions that I've gotten on different platforms about burnout. A lot of common things I've seen with my clients, and as well, my journey through burnout twice. And it's just, it's interesting to note that burnout each time can look and feel different. So if you've been through burnout, doesn't mean you're off the hook. Um, I definitely thought, I never thought I would go through it again after going through it once. And I thought I'd be able to recognize it a lot better. And I learned that that's not true. I do think, though, that after going through it the second time, I can definitely see a lot of patterns, um, and feel a lot more resilient to it not happening again. But that's just the point of this, is that burnout can show up in so many different ways, and those seeds can be different every time. So it's not something to overlook, right? So just because you've been through it once doesn't mean it can't happen again. Um, but we learn from it, right? We take our learnings and we move forward. And then I get to be here to help you and share it with you today. So thank you for everybody for joining in, for tuning in today. Thanks, Andrea, Nadia, Ismin. Thanks for joining in, and everybody else who's online here. As I mentioned, if you want to get some more resources, shoot me a DM, the word newsletter and your email address. Happy to add you into the newsletter. Any other questions, feel free to shoot me a note. Okay, thank you to everybody for joining in. I hope you have an awesome rest of your Thursday, and no burnout today. Bye for now.